In the last 3 episodes, I've really tried to dig deep into the fandom side of Japanese culture and show you how the people there, if they love something, they just celebrate it in the coolest ways imaginable. Well, in this final episode of this little mini-series, I'm going to show you one of the most impressive examples of that in the whole of Japan. So in Tokyo, there's this place called Odaiba. It's like a man-made island. To get to it, you have to get a monorail. And on there, they've got like their equivalent of Legoland. They've got restaurants. They've got the big Sega Joypolis arcade. Loads of cool stuff. There's also a shopping mall called DiverCity Plaza. And not only is it a sick place for eating food and getting sick clothes and shopping, it's one of my favourite places to shop in Tokyo. It's also got a whole part of it that's completely dedicated to Gundam. So back in the 60s, this trend started of giant mecha robots in TV shows and manga and anime, and you had stuff like Tetsujin, Giganto, Mazinger, all these kind of things. But then one came along in '79 called Gundam. So what made Gundam different is while the other robots were often very like mythical, magical, superpower based, Gundam was like artillery, militaries, and they weren't referred to as robots, they were mech suits, mechanized armor suits, and they were shooting guns and rockets and missiles and spraying bullets. And it kind of brought a lot more of an adult element to these kind of TV shows. It's now one of the most celebrated franchises in Japan. They absolutely love it there. And this led to them building an entire part of the mall that was completely dedicated to Gundam called the Gundam Base. We did come to the Gundam Base about 3 years before, and at the time it was very small. It was just dedicated to something called Gunpla, which is the official Gundam model kits, and it was pretty cool. It was not very big, but they had like a really nice impressive display of, I don't know, like a couple of hundred Gunpla that you could check out and you could buy.
Toys.
There he is.
Half armour.
From Tokyo.
Oh, he's sick.
RX-782.
Bad G.
But this time round they've just took it to a whole nother level. It must be like 15 times the size of what it was when I first went. So when you first walk in, they've got the sickest wall with these like neon lights that like bleed across the wall. There's no doubt in your mind that you are at the most impressive display of Gundam in the entire world. It's at the top floor of the Tokyo DiverCity Plaza, so once you've done all your shopping and arcading and eating and that kind of thing, head to the top floor, walk straight in and you can't miss this shit. So this thing there that they've got called Gunpla, it's like Warhammer Airfix model kits. You buy it in a box, it comes on a plastic sprue, and you snip it and put it together and build the robot. And they've literally got every single robot and offshoot and spin-off that was ever featured in Gundam ever, and you can buy every single one. And they do a few different like marked grades, so you can get some really old school like cheap simple looking ones all the way to like really high grade ones. So I must admit, I'm not a collector of these kind of things, but these were really fucking impressive, and the people there are so into them, and I can fully see why. I also heard that these Gunpla make up 90% of the toy business in Japan. Now, if you've watched our other toy episodes, you know how big the toy industry is in Japan and how many shops there is selling toys. So for these to make up 90% of that, that's fucking huge. You can't go into a toy shop in Japan without seeing rows and rows and rows of these things everywhere. The first Gunpla were released in the 80s, and they've got reproductions of those in the same type of boxes with the sick original artwork on, and they were definitely my favourite. Like, if I was going to take one home, they would definitely be the ones that I went for. there's just rows and rows and rows of these things. It's just like never ending. And what makes it cool is that every single one that you can buy, they've got there on display fixed up so you can see the size of it, the grade of it, exactly what you're getting. You can also buy all the tools and the model kits and the clippers to snip them out of the sprue. And then there's like an entire area that's completely dedicated to the production of Gunpla, so you can see all the little plastic crystals that they use to make these sprues. You can see exactly how the factory works. There's even like a rotating glass dome of all the different types of sprues that they use. Just another example of how they can make anything look cool in Japan. Look at this, they make like rotating art just out of the plastic sprues that you pop your finger out of. Japan are the only people that could take the actual sprues of the Gundam that are not even connected together and turn it into some really fucking impressive art. If I press some buttons. So what we've got in here is the Gunpla Builders World Cup Champion. I think that's the best in the world. We probably should check that out. There's also a part that's dedicated to the World Championship of Gunpla building, where people have built them and customized them in their own way. Super fucking impressive. Then there's a whole area that's just dedicated to building the Gunpla, so you can literally go in there, buy one, sit down and start building it together amongst all of the like-minded people that are into this shit, all doing it together, people doing it with the kids, people doing it with their friends. Fucking awesome. My favourites, like I said, definitely the retro versions, but there's every single one there that you could ever want, including some exclusives, one of which is something called the Unicorn Gundam. They've also got a limited edition Gundam base version, which makes sense, like that they'd have one you can get here that you can't get anywhere else. It's little green, it looks cool. I love luminous green stuff. So this is actually DiverCity Plaza, like a diorama of it. That's actually outside, so this must be, if not the same or very similar to the Gundam wing that's outside. But that's the actual DiverCity Plaza. And the DiverCity Plaza, I've been in that cafe there, we can go there. That's like a Gundam wing themed cafe with a little gashapon outside. That's awesome. So talking a little bit about the Unicorn Gundam. At the start of this video I told you that we're going to be looking into one of the most impressive examples of fandom in the whole Japan, and to me it doesn't get more impressive than this. So outside the Tokyo DiverCity Plaza, guarding it almost, is a giant 1.1 scale Unicorn Gundam mech suit. This is 1.1 scale, the exact size these things would be if they actually existed. And at the start of this video, I said, Gundam set the level for real robots, and it don't get more real than this. When I came here a few years ago, there was an RX-782 robot outside, which is like the original, most iconic Gundam of them all. This is a much more like updated, contemporary version of a Gundam suit that features in the more newer episodes of the show and stuff, and it's so fucking impressive. But when this thing really comes to life, in my opinion, when it's most impressive is at night. Every few hours it does like a demonstration display where its face transforms and its body armor changes and it lights up with all different flashing neon colors and plays music. I've been to this mall like 7 times, and every single time I come there's just a sea of people around it taking pictures and selfies and just in love with this giant robot. It to me is like one of the true examples of why Japanese culture is just like no other culture on the planet. Now I'm not hating on other people's art because it's subjective. I always say this, art is subjective, and if I see like a shitty weird sculpture in our parks or our towns in England that I don't understand, just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's rubbish. But like this is stuff that I proper understand and I get, and it's just so fucking cool that you can go to Japan and see a giant 1.1 scale Gundam that's just been built purely because Japan are proud of their fucking anime culture and their manga culture and their giant robot, real robot mech suit Gundam culture. I'm not even the biggest Gundam fan in the world. There's things about Japan that I love way more than Gundam. But this is something that just resonates so fucking deep within me that these guys can build it, and it's so fucking cool and it's so impressive, and it's literally there because it's cool. This is essentially a giant fucking weapon. It's a giant weaponized mech suit. Yet Japan don't look deep into the bullshit of all that. There's no one there saying, oh, you can't really build a giant weaponized robot. That's not cool. It's going to offend people. That's not for everybody. Japan don't give a fuck. They like giant robots. Giant robots are fucking cool. So they build giant 1.1 scale robots. And it's just like, look, fuck off. We're Japan. We like cool shit. Robots are cool. Boom. Giant robot. There.